We're on a boat, dagnubbit, and you should be on the boat with us too. Details are listed directly below for Strata Cruise 2020.
Well, what if you're also the fourth president to be impeached? Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle now. And Bill, it looks like it's possible that President Trump could be both the third and fourth presidents of the United States to be impeached. And
Really?
by that, I mean that the House Judiciary Committee has filed a motion in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals saying that they need to have the testimony of former White House counsel Don McGahn, and that if they don't get it, that they may file an additional impeachment article, in essence, a new impeachment, since the impeachment articles have already been drafted. They may do it again. Bill, this seems like I guess the first thing that occurred to me, Bill, about this is there's never an end to this. And,
no, of course not.
But it seems that Republicans keep thinking, oh, well, once he gets through the Mueller report, this will come to an end. And now once he gets through this whole Ukraine thing, then that'll come to an end. And once he gets through the impeachment thing, then that'll come to an end. But there is no end.
No, there is no end. And the reason that Republicans think that is because they're decent people with a sense of honor and the rule of law. And once again, it comes down to we have no idea what exactly we are fighting against. Just we cannot really fully conceive of the just the lowness of this. Hey, look, as far as I'm concerned, this thing is also, it's just another one of the many institutions that are essential to American life that the progressives have beaten into the ground. But since they've beaten into the ground, I think they ought to impeach him 30 times. That's what I think. As a matter of fact, I don't know why you would stop at 2 digits. I think they ought to go for 100 specific impeachments, not impeachment charges. I think they ought to impeach him 100 times, because that'll show the American people what happens when they make the wrong decision. And as far as the rest of it goes, Scott, you're not going to get more that I can come up with on this anyway, because I am at the point, like so many other Americans, when I realize this whole thing is just one gigantic farce that never ends. And look, if this doesn't blow up in the Democrats' face, then I don't think there's really much left to save, to be honest with you. But I suspect that is not going to be the case. I suspect this is going to come back to them in a very, very big way.
Well, apparently they don't suspect that, Bill, because they keep charging ahead. In fact, immediately after the articles of impeachment were voted in the House, and it was assumed that that would be sent over to the Senate for a trial, and Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, said that there would be a speedy trial in the Senate. Yep. Then the House said, well, wait a minute, maybe we won't send those articles of impeachment over, so you can't conduct a trial, because we would rather have this thing, have the appropriate seriousness and take the time that it deserves to process this, otherwise known as, let's see if we can get this a little closer to the election.
Yes, no, absolutely. If you wanted the seriousness to deal with something of this issue, you might have thought of that before you filed the impeachment charges, but you didn't. And we all know what's going on. The reason that they're not sending it to the Senate is because the Senate will instantly reject it for lack of evidence, as any other court in the nation would, really as almost any other court in the world would, given the way that the Democrats have managed to debase this entire legal system of this country. But if they really think that this is clever, we're going to come up with impeachment articles, and then we're not going to send them. It'll be like he's impeached forever. If you think that's what you're doing, if you think you're really that clever, then you are in for a very, very, very big surprise. Very big surprise.
Well, Bill, it's an interesting argument that's being made before the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, because the Democrats are saying we need a hasty decision from the court on this matter to get Don McGahn and some of the papers related to the Mueller probe, because there's this ongoing impeachment process. Meanwhile, the Trump administration, through the Department of Justice, comes out and says, well, for the very reason the Democrats stated, they should not actually get access to Don McGahn, because there's already an impeachment process or trial should be in the offing here.
The House is finished. It's done. They have come up with their charges of impeachment, their articles of impeachment, which, as everybody knows, needs to be turned over to the Senate immediately so that the Senate can basically make a decision and basically
not everybody
send
knows,
this
Bill. About half of the country knows.
Well, then let me rephrase this for you. The House is the one that brings charges, and the Senate is the one that basically votes on whether those charges are worthy of removal from office. It is the Senate that removes the president from office, not the House. The House brings the charges, the Senate votes on them. So the House has brought the charges. They have not sent it to the Senate because they know if they send it to the Senate will reject it immediately. So not only have they failed in their constitutional duty, and I think they are in direct violation, every single one of those Democrats are in direct violation of their oath of office, because you have pointed out, and it's a painful truth, but it's the truth. You have pointed out that the entire impeachment process from a strictly legal point of view up until this point has been legal. It's been immoral, unethical, it's been treasonous, and I think it's been destructive of America, but that's not a bug for them. That's a feature. Up until this point, if it has been anything, it has at least been, strictly speaking, legal. But as of now, it's not. As of now, it's not legal. They got their articles of impeachment, and if they don't send them to the Senate, then they are in violation of their oath of office, and these traitors need to be taken out of office and basically put in jail where they belong. But if that's not going to happen, if they actually think that this is going to work, if they actually think that this is somehow cute, like people can't see what's going on here, that's fine. But they have done their job. They have filed articles of impeachment, and to say that, look, just imagine this as if this was any other kind of trial in the world, okay? You bring charges against O.J. Simpson for murder. And as the trial begins, you realize, oh, wait a minute, hold on. You know what? There's some more charges that we could have filed. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Maybe we can get it for jaywalking. No. You have had your impeachment hearings. You have had your impeachment articles. You've decided that they're valid, and now submit them to the Senate like you're supposed to. You don't get to go again and again. And all it does, forget about how immoral it makes them look, because that's just taken for granted. On top of everything else, this makes them look just blindingly incompetent, which we can thank God for, by the way, because if these people had any idea of what they were doing, we would have been finished a long time ago. But no, you're saying, oh, we didn't do it right. I guess we rushed. That's basically what this says to me. You know, we really kind of rushed through this impeachment thing, and we really got it done too fast. Turns out there were a lot of other things we should have looked at.
Well, they wanted it before, Bill. In fairness to the Democrats, they wanted this information before. And the reason why it's happening now is because they faced a deadline of the end of the day, Monday of this week, to be able to file if they needed to pursue this any further. So that's why we're hearing about it now. But they've been after this Don McGahn testimony for most of the year. Well, they're not going to get it. So you either file on the charges that you have, or you don't, and they did. And so those are the articles. That's it. You don't get a do-over. This is a do-over of a do-over. This entire impeachment thing is a do-over of the 2016 election. And now these idiots, traitors and lunatics, want a do-over of the do-over because they didn't do over the way that they could have done over if they'd had a little more time to do it over again. Please, will you please, for the sake of God, stop this goat rodeo before God comes down from heaven? You may say it's a do-over of the 2016 election, but in a strict sense, they're not saying this is a do-over of the articles of impeachment that they already have extant, because those have to do with the Ukraine situation. What they're saying is that the reason why they want to talk to Don McGahn is he told Mueller's investigation, Robert Mueller's probe team about the Russia interference in U.S. elections in 2016, that President Trump at one point wanted to have Mueller fired. And so they are, meaning the House Judiciary Committee, is pursuing another obstruction of an obstruction of Congress concept because the president was trying to interfere with this probe.
Firing Mueller is not obstruction of justice. Firing Mueller is the promotion of justice. And that in itself is enough to get you started on this whole thing. And if Donald Trump says, I'd like to fire this guy, did he?
Are you asking a question now?
Yes, I'm asking a question that can be answered in reality.
You've attempted this defense before, but really, this is not a strong point on your part because it doesn't matter whether somebody successfully managed to commit a crime if he tried to commit a crime. It's attempted burglary is a crime as well as burglary, to use a really bad example.
But where was the obstruction of justice?
He's saying the obstruction of justice was in trying to get Mueller fired, and he tried.
Did he try to get Mueller fired, or did he try to get Mueller fired, or did he just try to get Mueller fired, or did he just say, "I'd like to get Mueller fired"?
Well, I'm not going to try to retry the Mueller probe at this point and late in the game, but that's why the Democrats want to talk to McGahn. So my point is they're making a distinction between this whole Ukraine issue and his obstruction efforts during the Mueller period of time. Now, but the question to me is, Bill, how come you are so convinced that the Democrats are making a horrible mistake here, and yet they are spending thousands of man hours and millions of dollars to continue to pursue this? Do you really think that some of the shrewdest politicians in the country are total idiots about this?
Yes. Yes, I do. These are the people that thought Hillary Clinton was going to win in 2016 by 20 points. I categorically think they're idiots. No one is that evil to be that smart. You can't be. There are no super geniuses out there that don't exist in the movies. You know, it's not like Nancy Pelosi basically goes into some place and after she finishes getting the evidence, she leads a jack of diamonds, inside a velvet glove on top of the safe to show that, that the wrinkled pimpernel has been there. No, they're not super geniuses. Of course they're stupid
I'm afraid
people.
Your literary references are bouncing off the foreheads of many of our publicly schooled
How many of these movies have you seen with the arch criminal who's a mastermind leaves his calling card just so that the person who's trying to track him down is known how foolish they are, and just to show them what rank idiots they are compared to their evil geniuses? What I'm saying is no, they are not evil geniuses. They are desperate people, and they're desperate for a number of reasons. They're desperate because Donald Trump is undoing the damage that they've done to the American people. They're desperate because Joe Biden is complicit in the Ukraine in the way that Donald Trump wasn't, and this is how they work. They're desperate because Hillary Clinton did collude with Russia, even though Donald Trump didn't. And mostly they're desperate because the people they have up there on their podium are the weakest field of candidates that have ever existed, and this is all they have. It's all they have. This is like somebody, well, you know what this is like? This is like watching a person, it's like watching a fully grown man drown a child trying to get into a lifeboat. That's what this reminds me of. It's like watching a 200-pound man basically grabbing a 6 or 7-year-old girl who's holding on to the rung of a lifeboat trying to get in and pulling her out of there, pushing her under the water so that he can get on board. That's what this looks like to me. And I think that I'm probably being kind to the Democrats in this regard.
So let's accept your premise. Let's accept your premise that they are doing something incredibly stupid here.
Don't forget evil.
Is it therefore incumbent upon people like you and people on the right or the conservatives or Republicans to raise such a caterwauling and outrage about this in order to keep them doing the stupid thing they're doing? Or why aren't you just sitting back and saying, oh, well, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Democrat, I think that that's a fair thing. You really should pursue that if you know that they're running off a cliff. Why are you so upset about it?
Well, I'm so upset about it because of what their ideological mentor has said repeatedly. And that person said, when a lie is big enough and told often enough, people will believe it. That's what Joseph Goebbels said, and these are Goebbels' tactics, and this is nothing other than that. You can't have it both ways,
Bill. You said that you thought that this was a doomed prospect that they had faced here, that they were going the wrong way, but now you seem to think that maybe it could be successful.
Look, Scott, part of it being doomed is for people to realize what's going on. Right. And there are already enough people in this country who are supporters of Donald Trump who are as white hot angry as I've ever seen them. And every day they get a little angrier. And I certainly know that I am. But to say that by pointing out how stupid they are is having it both ways is just nuts. That can't possibly be true. Of course they're doing something. I think they're doing something stupid, and I think they're doing something evil. I'm going after the evil part. But we will see. The American people will determine.
But you said you think it's going to fail.
Look, Scott, if it doesn't fail, then there's nothing to save here anymore. If it doesn't fail, then there are no Supreme Court appointees anymore. It's all a question of who can drag out the person who can cry the most convincingly. If this doesn't fail, if this results in a Democratic win for the presidency in 2020, then it means that there is no bottom, no limit, no constraints on behavior, nothing. It is a full-on, absolute coup to remove a sitting president, and it succeeded. If Donald Trump is not reelected as a result of this, then I don't see any hope for this country. I'm not going to do what the progressives always say they're going to do and say I'm going to move somewhere else. I'm going to fight even harder than I'm fighting now, which is about as hard as I know how to fight. But honestly, if this tactic works, then we have entered the law of the jungle. And I would remind those people on the left who are so determined to destroy the rule of law, utterly determined to destroy the rule of law, that you are now face to face with the Second Amendment of the United States, and you are now finally, maybe finally, coming to understand why we support that particular paragraph as strongly as we do. You cannot get away with this ongoing effort to simply overturn an election that you don't like. Democracy is not for you. You don't deserve a democracy. You don't deserve a republic. You deserve to go live in some country where all that matters is power and lies. And if that's the way you want to play games here in America, well, you are about to find out that we are not simply going to sit here and take this. If you think it's going to just be something that you can just pull off, you are out of your minds. Out of your minds.
So to finish up here, and I think I'm coming to better understand your point here, because it's not, as I first presumed, that you think that they are doomed if they pursue this avenue. It sounds to me like you're almost dealing with sort of the Platonic ideal, like they should be doomed if they pursue this avenue, but it just might work. And so that's why you're upset. Is that correct?
There's no evidence that it will work. There's no evidence that will work. Donald Trump's support is getting stronger as a result of this.
But so there's no evidence. It might.
Look, Scott, when you are talking about stakes this high, when the stakes are, and I'm not talking about the election, I'm not talking about the removal of Donald Trump being the end of the United States. I'm talking about the fact that law, constitutionality, all of this stuff goes in order to get Trump out of the office. If that is the case, then this country is not the United States of America anymore. It's perilously close to that point now. But I am telling you, there are still half of the people in this country who love this country and respect its rules and put up with 8 years of a known communist as president of the United States because we lost the election. And if the left is not willing to play by the rules of a democracy, then they don't deserve the rules of a democracy. And if they think that they are going to get it, they're not. It's the same thing with the economic argument. It's the exact same thing, really, if you think about it. People like Bernie Sanders and the rest of these Democratic progressive lunatics actually think that if they get political power and they're able to pull off all these dirty tricks, then they'll be able to tax people 94% or 93% of their income if they make above $400,000. And they think the people would pay it. They really think that people would go to work and keep 7 cents on the dollar so that lunatic who thinks we should have one kind of deodorant, who's never had a job in his life, can distribute the rest of our money to the people who have helped him cheat his way into. It's not going to happen, Bernie. It's not going to happen, Nancy. It's not going to happen. You are not going to get what you want one way or another. And the reason I can say that with some authority is because you know, and I know, and Donald Trump knows, and everybody knows what this thing is. And what this thing is about. You want to try this deemed as passed. You remember how we got Obamacare? Did we vote on it? No, we just said we kind of agreed that it had passed. This is Nancy Pelosi in a nutshell. Okay, Nancy. Okay, keep going. Impeach him 100 times. Impeach him 1,000 times. I don't care. You can impeach him and the Senate can remove him from office and I think he'd be reelected. So to hell with you, to hell with your party, to hell with your miserable, horrible, wretched little devious, nasty business of destroying the entire country so that you can stay with your 757 and be, Madam Speaker, you are going to get what you deserve. I am telling you, you are going to get what you deserve. The American people have had enough of this stuff. And if there was ever any question in anybody's mind why Donald Trump has to go to Washington and get rid of these people, if this doesn't indicate it to you, then you have the kind of cognitive problems that I can't help you with, and you really should check yourself into a mental institution.
Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we had a surge of people signing up for the May 2020 Strato Cruise, as we're calling it. It is the members and friends of BillWhittle.com are going to join Bill and myself and Stephen Green aboard a Royal Caribbean cruise liner and go to the Bahamas. And in the course of that, we will do live productions of these shows without a cage and without a net. So it should be very exciting on board the ship. We'd like to invite you to become part of that. You can go to BillWhittleCruise.com to find out more. Our friends over at the Patriot Post have been faithful contributors to this enterprise, and we are grateful for them. We'll provide a link to the Patriot Post, America's News Digest, in the description below. And most of all, we want to thank the members at BillWhittle.com who day after day have provided the impetus and the funding for this kind of programming, these conversations that spread around the world and change hearts and minds and introduce many people to ideas they won't get anywhere else. If you'd like to become a member, go to BillWhittle.com and click that Become a Member link. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.